Hi, I'm Jill Foster, and welcome to your next PB&J card class. Today I'll be sharing cards created using stamps from our new London collection. And here's a look at just a couple of the stamps that I'll be using today. And I'll be sure at the very end of the video to list all the stamps used. And today I'll be using also the new Memento ink colors to create some background papers, which are then used on these cards. So to begin, I'll be showing you how I created the two background papers, sort of the brown and the yellow, that are behind the flower on this note card. So I'm using a nice smooth cardstock. I have the Memento ink in the color Peanut Brittle and the dauber edge, and I'm just rubbing that in the ink pad, starting off of the edge and working my way on in a circular motion. And I want this background to have some areas of light and some areas of dark, just to kind of create some movement within the background. And this circular sponge dauber seems to really do the trick when applying the ink in this way. And I can go back and apply more and less, so that you can see there when you look at that, there's areas of light and areas of dark. Now to create all these papers then, I'm going to use the same ink. So again, I'm using the Peanut Brittle on this new stamp, and I'm stamping it just to cover the background. I decided to go kind of at an angle and then turn the stamp as I go. And it just creates a tone-on-tone look. Now when you create your papers like this, they don't need to be perfect because again, I'm just going to use a part of this paper in the end on the card. And so just being careful to cover the entire thing, especially around the edges. If there are any areas that are open along the edge of the cardstock, I'm just being sure to fill that in, and that's what I'm doing right here. So it's also kind of a fun way to create some papers. If you're in the mood to stamp but you don't have a card idea right away, just make some papers and then use them later on a card. So this next color I'm using is called Toffee Crunch, and it's really like this warm brownish gray color. I really like this. And I'm using a new sponge dauber. So I'm keeping each sponge dauber with each color of ink, starting off of the edge and then working my way on to cover that background. And again, I want to have areas of light and areas of dark so that when I stamp over the top, it's not just a flat looking surface. It has some movement to it. Now I'm going to take penny black letter background. I'm using that same ink, that Toffee Crunch, to ink my stamp. And then with a baby wipe here, I'm wiping some of that ink off so that it stamps incomplete. I don't want the entire image to cover. So this time when I rub the ink off, I'm rubbing from the sides so that it's easy to line that up. I don't have to line it up perfectly. So here you see I wipe the ink from the bottom. So if I don't line it up exactly where I stamped previously, that's okay because that's where I've removed some of the ink. And here's a look at each of those papers on the card. You can see they created the background behind the flower, and that flower was colored in with Copics. Now here's a look at the next card that we'll be creating the background papers for. So we'll be doing the blue paper and the green paper. So this is the Memento ink by Sukaneko in the color Nautical Blue. Following that same process, starting off the edge and working my way on. And you have pretty good control with the little dauber because you can get your hand right in there down at the bottom. So it is nice when creating these backgrounds. Now again, I'm going to ink my stamp with the same color. So I'm using another one of the new stamps from the London collection by Penny Black. This time I'm going to start at the bottom and just work my way up onto the paper, re-inking each time. And you can see here I'm also stamping off the edge of the cardstock. And again, I just want to be sure that along the edges, outside edges of the paper, that's completely filled in. That gives a finished look to this stamping. So I'm just going around and filling in those areas. Now the next color is pistachio. Following the same process here of starting off the edge and working my way on. And then when I stamp this background, I'm going to be using one of the stamps from the clear set in the London collection. And this set, what I did was since it's a clear set, I went ahead and trimmed just the little flags, you can see them there, to stamp the background. And if I wanted to put that back together with the original image, I could just reposition it onto my acrylic block. So it's okay to cut your stamps if you need to. And I continued to stamp that entire sheet. And there you can see that blue background with the center green strip that was stamped using the flags. Here's the final card from today. To begin, we'll be using the color from Memento Ink Teal Zeal and inking our cardstock. I'm also using the sponge dauber again. And then to stamp this background, I'll be grabbing another new stamp from the London collection, inking with that same ink, Teal Zeal. And then repeatedly stamping that across the background. And then I'm just filling in that last little corner there. Now in this next card, I'm using the same color of the Teal Zeal, but you'll notice that when I take that sponge dauber, I'm wiping off quite a bit of the ink on my work surface before I work my way onto the cardstock. So you see when I re-ink, I'm rubbing it on the work surface and then moving onto the cardstock. And this way you can get a much lighter version of the color on your background. And I really love how it also kind of creates the effect of a sky. So if you did leave this just as is, it'd make a nice beautiful sky. I'm going to stamp on top of it and use it for a different purpose, but there you can see the difference between the colors, even though I use the same color of ink. And then to stamp on this, I'm going to use another new color called Espresso Truffle, which I'm inking onto penny black music note background, and then I'll lay that inked background onto the music note stamp, hold with one hand, and then rub with the other. And then I'll be using just a strip of that on the card. This final color is called Morocco. It's a beautiful red-orange. And when I apply this on, I'm going to start lighter, but you'll see as I continue to add ink with that sponge dauber, I'm going to darken it up. So I'm pressing harder and then also going over the area more than one time. And you can get a really rich colored background as well. So here you can see where I'm really going in and darkening that. Scrubbing it on the ink pad and then rubbing it onto the paper, and there you get that nice vibrant color. And then I'm going to use another penny black stamp, which will be inked with the same color, Morocco, to cover this background. And I'm starting at the bottom, and then I'm going to work my way up. Again, when you create backgrounds like this and you only end up using part of the piece of paper, it's not essential that your stamping is absolutely perfect when you create the background. You just don't need to spend the time perfectly lining things up because you're probably only going to use a portion of it anyways. So now I'll get the top. and just a little bit there on the right hand side. And then here's a look at all of those pieces layered onto the card. The butterfly was colored with Copic markers and also lightly inked with the Morocco Memento ink. And again, here's another look at the complete set together, featuring stamps from our new Penny Black London collection. For details and more information, visit www.pennyblackink.com. And for a complete list of supplies, stay tuned and I will show them at the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching.